Tyler, I've got 3 accounts and they're all different taxable levels. I've got a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, and a non-qualified individual account. Where should I pull my money from first? It's an interesting question, and there is a right answer to it. So when we look at this, there are 3 different taxable types. You have your non-qualified account, where only the profits get taxed, only the gains you make get taxed. You have a traditional IRA, where anything you pull from that is taxable income. Then you have a Roth IRA, where it's tax-free as long as the account's been established for 5 years. You can even pull the gains out tax-free. Now, as to the withdrawal strategy, how should we operate this? I first off have to give the disclaimer, it depends on your personal situation. Everybody's situation is different, but usually we would want to liquidate the traditional account first. Here's why. Let's assume all of these accounts are going to grow, right? Would you rather have your gains be tax-free or taxable when you pull them out? You'd rather have them be tax-free, right? Then we want to preserve those Roth gains. We want to let that Roth grow as long as possible without pulling from it, because then if that keeps growing, that's going to be tax-free. What if we pulled the Roth, so we're liquidating the Roth down to 0 and we're letting the traditional grow? Now we have more money in an account that is going to be entirely taxable. So do we want our gains to be tax-free or taxable? We want it to be tax-free, right? We want to ideally liquidate the traditional IRA first, because there's actually a lot of problems with letting a traditional IRA grow too much. Because if you let that grow at either age 73 or 75, you now have required distributions where the government starts forcing you to pull it out, and that required amount you have to pull out is a percentage of your account value. If your account was $1 million and it goes to $2 million, the percentage stays the same, but you have to pull out more. If it was $1 million, you would have had to pull out $40,000. Now this grew to $2 million, you got to pull out $80,000. That's going to affect your tax brackets, but more importantly, it's going to affect your taxability of Social Security. It's going to affect whether you qualify to pay the Medicare tax, which is more money for Medicare. On the tax-free side, if that grows, you're never required to pull it out. And when you do pull it out, it doesn't count as taxable income, so it doesn't affect your Social Security or your Medicare. So we would want to let that grow, and we'd want to rip off the Band-Aid with the traditional account, and that's initially where we want to pull from. Secondly, we would want to pull from the non-qualified individual account, because even though the taxes for that aren't as bad, we still are paying taxes on the gains. So it's, again, a non-retirement account. There's no required distribution amount, but still, anytime we make a sale in that account, anytime we rebalance and there's a profit, we pay tax on that. So that's going to be number 2. And so we're getting basically worst to best taxation-wise. That's the way we're going to go when we're liquidating the account, because we want our best to grow as high as possible, and we want to get those taxes over with. So we're going to liquidate the traditional IRA first, then we're going to go to the non-qualified individual account. Then, once we get that out of the way, we're going to work on to the Roth, and then hopefully by that point the Roth has grown, that's tax-free. Assuming there's no other pensions or anything of that sort, we don't have to worry about Social Security tax, we don't have to worry about IRMA. We're in a pretty good spot now. Now, what happens if we did the opposite? What happens if instead we liquidate the best taxation first, the worst last? The tax-free account doesn't grow because we're liquidating that to 0 over time. Now, in this process, the traditional IRA is growing. So that $400 you had in that account last year, maybe is now is $450. That $400, let's skip forward 5 years. That $400 you had in that account is now $600. See the problem here? While your Roth is nearing 0, that $600, that's all taxable. Your gains are totally taxable. Now we move past that Roth, we've liquidated that, that's out of the picture. So now you don't have any investments now that are tax-free. Congratulations. Now you're moving on to the brokerage. All right, now there's a little bit of taxes. Before, you got used to that tax-free stuff early. You were pulling that out, living a nice life, you weren't paying taxes on it. Now you got this brokerage account, starting to pay a little bit of taxes on the brokerage account. And you had paid a little bit over the years because there were some gains that you sold, but all right, liquidating this down. Now it's another 10 years. Now all you have left is a traditional account. That traditional account is 1.5 million. Now you got to take it out anyway because you're age 75 years old. You got to pull it out anyway. The government's making you pull out over 4%. All right, 4% of 1.5 million, that's $60,000. All right, wow. Now I was getting $36,000 a year from Social Security. Now I'm pulling out $60,000. Guess what? Now 85% of your Social Security is going to be taxable. You're going to have $85,000 a year taxable income. That's assuming you don't have any other pensions. Now you got a $2,500 a month pension. Congratulations, welcome to Irma Land. Now you're going to pay more money for Medicare, and Medicare has its own brackets, so we're going to get into in the next video. Oh, and then guess what? RMD percentages go up every single year. So every year you're pulling more and more out, getting more and more taxable income. So you're not just paying more for Medicare. All of a sudden now every year you're skipping into new Medicare brackets. You're paying more and more. Your taxes are higher, your brackets are higher. Does this sound like a good situation? So that's the general way I would approach that. But I'd like to see what questions you all have. So if you have questions, you have comments, place them down below. If you'd like a complimentary retirement review, click the link below. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.